Namaste, Namaste viewers. Welcome to this Adi Shankaracharya Jayanti festival, Festival of Oneness. We celebrate for full 1 month, having 2 lectures every day from Vidwans and Pandits. I am Sanjeev Sherikar. I am the host of this session. I will start the session by chanting few mantras. Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Vasudeva Sutan Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Haraye Paramatmane Pranatah Kleshanashaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Mukhaṁ karoti vācālam pangum langayate girim yatkripatamaham vande paramanandamadhavam. Om Pūrṇamadah Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇamudachyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadaya Pūrṇamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrutyorma Amrutangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sahanavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vitvishāvahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Kinjyotistava Bhanumana Hanime Ratro Pradipādikam Syadevam Ravideepa Darshana Vidhau Kinjyotirakhyahime Chakshustasya Nimilanadi Samaye Kindhir Diyo Darshane Kintatrahamato Bhavan Paramakam Jyotistadasmi Prabho. Harihi Om Tatsat Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Viewers, today we are privileged to have Satyan Chidambaran to give us the lecture on nature of knowledge and its means. Lakshmi Narayanan Satyan Chidambaran is a full-time student of Vedanta and Sanskrit based in Chennai. He has been studying Vedanta under his guru, Pujya Swami Paramarthanandaji, since 2003. A graduate from IIT Madras in computer science and postgraduate from University of Michigan, Satyan served at a global software firm for 26 years in various technical leadership roles before leaving his job in 2019 to focus on his Vedanta and Sanskrit studies full-time. Satyan was the first introduced to Vedanta almost 3 decades ago in 1996 at Chinmaya Mission when he was in USA. Subsequently, Satyan came across the teachings of his Paramaguru, Pujya Swami Dayananda Saraswati Ji, who opened his eyes regarding Vedanta being Pramāṇa for Atma Jñānam. Satyan then studied Vedanta and Sanskrit for almost a decade under Vijay Kapoorji, a senior disciple of Pujya Swami Dayananda Saraswati Ji. At the same time, Satyan continued studying the Prasthanatraya and various Prakarana Granthas under his Guru Swami Paramarthananda Ji. At Arsha Vidya Center in California, Satyan also helped organize public talks and retreats by Swami Viditatmanandaji and Swami Tattvavinanandaji. Subsequently, Satyan moved to Chennai in 2011 to continue his Vedanta studies directly under his guru, Swami Paramarthanandaji. Satyan has also been studying Sanskrit at Samskar Bharati Paniniya Vyakaranam under Saumya Krishnapur and Nyaya Shastra under C.T. Satyanarayan. Satyan also teaches Vedanta through online classes and Advaita Drishti channel on YouTube. His writings at advaitadrishti.org dwell on traditional teachings of Advaita Vedanta. With this introduction, I request Satyanji to start his lecture. Satyanji, please start your lecture.
Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya-madhyamam Asmadacharya-paryantam Vande Guru-paramparam. Om. First of all, I'd like to thank Sanjeev ji for the kind introduction. And I'm happy to be a part of the Global Festival of Oneness 2025 in these month-long celebrations for Shankara Jayanti. And I'm happy to share some thoughts on the topic, the nature of knowledge and its means. So the pursuit of knowledge is a very central pursuit in Vedanta. In fact, it's the primary pursuit in Vedanta. And why is this so? Because in the vision of Vedanta, the human being is already full, limitless, complete, Pūrṇaḥ. But the human being has got self-ignorance. Now, when a thing is not known for what it is mistaken to be something else. So if the rope is not known as a rope, then it is mistaken to be a snake. Similarly, when this I, who I am, is not known for what I really am, if I don't know who I am basically, I mistake myself to be something else. Therefore, the human being invariably concludes that I am deficient, wanting, inadequate. I am apūrṇaḥ. And the human being cannot stand being apūrṇaḥ. Therefore, the human being now tries to become Pūrṇaḥ. And how does he try to become Pūrṇaḥ? Through the pursuit of arthaha, securities, kamaha, pleasures, and dharmaha, religious merit. But no matter what the human being accomplishes in the field of arthaha, kama, and dharmaha, he can never become Pūrṇaḥ because the limited I, the human being is limited in his own vision. And this limited I plus any number of limited accomplishments always remains the limited I, always remains apūrṇaḥ. And therefore, this struggle to become Pūrṇaḥ continues. In fact, it's an endless struggle. This endless struggle for Pūrṇatvam, for fullness, limitless, completeness. Through the pursuit of the first three Purusharthas of Arthaha, Kama, and Dharmaha is what we call samsaraha. So every human being is suffering from this disease of samsaraha. The situation is very much like this lady who thinks that she has lost her necklace. But the necklace happens to be right on her neck. But because of her ignorance, she has taken herself to be the lady without the necklace. She is actually the lady with the necklace, but because of ignorance, she has taken herself to be the lady without the necklace, and now she is trying to become the lady with the necklace because she is searching for the necklace everywhere. So it's a very curious situation. So similarly, we say And this human being who is already Pūrṇaḥ, limitless, full and complete, has got self-ignorance. And therefore he takes himself to be deficient, wanting, inadequate, apurnaha. And now he is trying to become Pūrṇaḥ and gets engaged in this endless struggle of samsara. This disease of samsara afflicts the human being. And the root cause is self-ignorance alone. Now, ignorance is one thing that doesn't go by itself. See, everything in the world is perishable. Everything has a date of birth and a date of expiry also. But ignorance is a very strange thing. It has no expiry, no natural expiry date of its own. So a human being is born ignorant of the world and ignorant of himself. As this human being goes to school and college, etc., he sheds the ignorance of the world. But this ignorance of the self continues because he has never looked into the self, he has never examined the self. And therefore, the self-ignorance continues, the adhyasa, the superimposition of apurnatvam continues. And therefore, the struggle of samsara continues. Therefore, the root cause is ignorance, and when ignorance is the problem, then knowledge alone is the destroyer of ignorance. Bhagavad says, Tejas timira sanghavat, like darkness goes only with light, ignorance goes only with knowledge. Vidya eva avidyam nihanti, says Bhagavad in the Atma Bodha. And therefore, only such knowledge that what I am seeking to accomplish through these various pursuits in the world, it is already accomplished. And really speaking, there is nothing to accomplish because I am already Pūrṇaḥ. Only this knowledge removes the self-ignorance. That's why Upanishad says, Shokam tarati atmavid. The knower of Atma transcends sorrow, goes beyond sorrow and suffering and struggle. And therefore, the pursuit of knowledge becomes the central primary pursuit in Vedanta. So now, moksha is my goal. Pūrṇattvam is my goal. But since Pūrṇattvam can only be accomplished through knowledge, through self-knowledge, now the question is, let's set the Pūrṇattvam aside. How do I gain this self-knowledge? So then, there are all these questions. What is knowledge? What is the nature of knowledge? What are the various means of gaining knowledge? What is self-knowledge? And which of the means of gaining knowledge are applicable to self-knowledge? And finally, what is the means of gaining self-knowledge? All of these questions become very important questions that one should have clarity on as a seeker of moksha and a seeker of jnana. Because if these topics are not clear, then one risks becoming a spiritual samsari. So one has come to the understanding that artha, kama and dharma pursuits cannot lead me to moksha. And if these topics are not clear, then one may try to attain moksha through some other means other than jnanam. And then that too becomes a never-ending pursuit. Spiritual samsara. Or even if one comes to the understanding that moksha is attained only through Atma Jnanam, one may try to attain the Atma Jnanam through some other means other than the means that will give rise to the Atma Jnana. Again, spiritual samsara, it will become a never-ending pursuit. One keeps going in circles. Therefore, clarity on these topics is extremely critical. So the first question then is, what is knowledge? Knowledge is referred to by the term Jnanam, Vedanta. So what is Jnanam? So here we'll take an example and then get into the Vedanta topic. First, a worldly example. So let's say there is a dark room. In the dark room, there are many objects. And the window is also closed. So all of these objects are enveloped by darkness. Now, the sun is outside. But since the window is closed, all of these objects are enveloped by darkness. Now, let's say I open the window slightly. Still, the objects are enveloped in darkness. Now, it's a midday sun. So I take a small mirror and I keep it outside the window at an angle. So now the sun is shining brilliantly. In fact, we say the sun is self-luminous, self-shining. The sun doesn't need any light to illumine the sun. Now I keep the mirror. Now the mirror begins to shine with the light of the sun. And then I direct the mirror through the opening in the window. I direct the mirror to different objects in the dark room. And when this patch of light from the mirror falls on the object is illumined. So why are we taking this example? We say that the process of knowledge is also something very similar. So there are three things here that we have to take from the example. One is the light. So light is needed to illumine objects in the world. The other is the sun. The third is the mirror. So now let's come to Vedanta. So why is this example relevant? Just like light is needed to illumine objects in the world, we say that consciousness is needed to know objects in the world. Consciousness is needed. So the equivalent of light is consciousness. Then there is the sun. The sun is the source of the light. So what is the source of this consciousness? Or what is really of the nature of consciousness? We say that is the Atma. The Atma. And then the third is the mind. We need a mirror to direct that light of the sun to objects. And the equivalent of the mirror is the mind. So light equivalent is consciousness, the sun equivalent is Atma, and the mirror equivalent is the mind. So now let's see how this works in the real world. So just like the sun is there outside, we say the Atma is there. Now where is the Atma, we may ask? What is Atma? So Vedanta starts off by saying that the Atma is in you. Because initially the student is identified with the body. So Vedanta says the Atma is in you. But later on, Vedanta teaches that the Atma is you. You are that Atma. That's what Vedanta comes to eventually. It starts off by saying that there is an Atma in you, which is the source, which is really of the nature of consciousness. And we call this Nitya Jnanam. It is of the nature of knowledge. Knowledge without an object. We can say objectless awareness. This is called Nitya Jnanam or Ajanya Jnanam, meaning the Jnanam that is not born, which is a constant presence of consciousness. So now, the mind is there in the proximity of Atma. Atma, the nature of consciousness, is there. The mind is there in the proximity of Atma. And the mind is made of extremely subtle matter. Mind is material, but made of extremely subtle matter. And that is the Sukshma Pancha Mahabhutas. And because the mind is made of this subtle matter, it has the capability to reflect consciousness. Just like the mirror is made of fine material, it has the capability to reflect the sunlight. Similarly, the mind has the capability to reflect this consciousness. Just like the mirror borrows the sunlight, the mind then borrows this consciousness. It has borrowed consciousness. So now what happens is the moment any thought arises in the mind, the thought is just automatically known to me because the thought carries the reflection of consciousness. The thought is imbued with borrowed consciousness, and therefore it shines because it has the equivalent of the light of consciousness. So the thought is also in a manner of saying self-shining, but it is shining with borrowed consciousness, just like the mirror shines with the borrowed light. So now let's come to the external objects like the pot. So they are all enveloped by this darkness of ignorance, just like the objects in the room are enveloped by the darkness. The objects in this world are enveloped by the darkness of ajnanam, darkness of ignorance. And consciousness is the only self-revealing entity. There is Atma. So this light has to illumine the pot. Then only I will get to know the pot. So how does this work? Like we said, the thought rises in the mind, and the thought has got this borrowed consciousness. Now, when my eyes contact the pot, at that time, the mind extends through my sense organ, in the form of this thought with borrowed consciousness. The mind extends and it pervades the pot, pervades the form of the pot. So this thought is called vrittihi. And this vrittihi extends and pervades the pot, and it's called ghatakara vrittihi. So when this ghatakara vrittihi takes place, it does two things. It first of all removes this veil of darkness of ignorance that envelops the pot. And the second thing it does is it illumines the pot because it has got the reflection of consciousness. So Vishaya Avarana Nivrittihi, it removes this veil of ignorance that surrounds the pot. And Vishaya Prakashaha, the pot is illumined because when the thought pervades the pot, the reflected consciousness that is there in the thought also pervades the pot. Therefore, we say that this Nirakara Chaitanyam, this formless consciousness that is the Atma, through this reflected consciousness that reaches the pot, pervades the pot, becomes Ghatakara Chaitanyam. So Nirakara Chaitanyam in association with Ghatakara Vrittihi becomes Ghatakara Chaitanyam. Ghatakara Chaitanyam means pot consciousness. So I experience pot consciousness. This is what I call pot knowledge. I know the pot. So this is called Vritti Jnānam or Janya Jnānam. Unlike this Nitya Jnānam, which is the Atma, this is Vritti Jnānam, Jnānam that is born. Janya Jnānam. And this is how I learn things in the world. Whenever I learn things, there is some Vritti Jnānam there. And this always takes place in the mind. Always takes place in the mind. Why? Because The Atma is nirvikaraha. Atma is changeless, formless and changeless. No change can take place in Atma. So in Atma alone, this Vritti Jnanam cannot take place. And in mind alone also, this Vritti Jnanam cannot take place because the mind is jada, inert. It has no consciousness of its own. Just like, you cannot see the objects in the dark room without the sun, with just the mirror, you cannot see the objects. Similarly, with the sun alone, without the mirror also, you cannot see the objects. So this mixture of Atma and Anatma is required for any Vritti Jnanam, or any knowledge to take place. So given this background, now we come to the question of what is valid knowledge. Because the term Vritti Jnanam, that's a broad term that includes recollection, smritihi. It includes doubt also, samshayaha. It includes wrong knowledge also, viparyayaha. And it includes right knowledge also, yathartha jnanam or Pramā. So it includes everything. All of this is included in Vritti Jnanam. So how do I distinguish valid knowledge from the rest of it? What is valid knowledge? So the Vedanta Paribhasha gives a definition of valid knowledge. Valid knowledge is called Pramā. It gives a definition of Pramā. Pramatvam anadhigata badhitartha vishayaka jnanatvam. Anadhigata abadhitartha vishayaka jnanatvam. So let's set aside the anadhigata for a moment. We take abadhitartha vishayaka jnanatvam. What does this mean? So what it's saying is that it's defining valid knowledge as that whose object stands uncontradicted, abadhita. What does this mean? So let's say there is a rope. Now, if I see the rope, my eyes come in contact with the rope, well, let's say there is some obstruction, like poor light or something like that. Then the vrittihi that gets formed, the form of the vrittihi doesn't take the rope form. Rajju akara chaitanyam, Rajju akara vrittihi doesn't happen. But instead, sarpa akara vrittihi happens. Basically, the thought, vritti, goes out and takes the form of a snake. So this is how I see the rope as a snake. Now here, if you look at the object of the knowledge, object of the Vritti Jnanam, what form it takes? It has taken the form of the snake. Therefore, this object stands to be contradicted by a subsequent cognition, where I see it as a rope. Then I say that what I saw earlier stands contradicted. So such knowledge that gets contradicted is invalid knowledge. Contradicted means badhita. On the other hand, if I see the rope as a rope, the vritti has taken the form of a rope properly, and I see the rope as a rope, then this kind of a cognition is not contradicted subsequently, is abadhita. So abadhitartha vishayaka jnanatvam, this is called Pramā, or valid knowledge. So now the question is, how does Pramā arise? Because I'm interested in Pramā. Even with respect to the Atma, Atma Jnanam, I'm interested in valid knowledge of the Atma, not invalid knowledge. So now the question is, how do I ensure that Pramā arises in my mind? A very important discussion. So we say that Pramā arises when the conditions for Pramā to arise are met. There are a number of causes that have to come together for the Pramā to arise. When those conditions, causes come together, then the Pramā arises in the mind. For example, if I have an object and I have to gain the knowledge of color, the color of the object. So in this situation, the object has to be there. I have to use my eyes. The eyes have to be there. The mind has to back the eyes. And there has to be a reasonable amount of light. And there should be no obstruction between the eye and the object. So a number of conditions are there. When these conditions come together, then Pramā arises in the mind. So given that there are many conditions, we pick out one of these that is a unique cause. The unique cause in a set of causes is called asadharana karanam. Asadharana karanam, and that is called karanam. Asadharana karanam, karanam. That's called the unique cause or the special cause, or an instrument. Instrument in the production of the effect. So now the question is, what is the karanam for Pramā? Pramayaha karanam. What is Pramayaha karanam? Pramā karanam. What is Pramā karanam? What is the karanam, the instrument that leads to Pramā? It's called Pramāṇam. Pramāṇam is the means or the unique cause or the instrument that leads to the production of the Pramā. So in case of color knowledge, amongst all the causes, the eyes are identified, the organ of vision is identified as the instrument that leads to the production of the color Pramā. So for the rise of Pramā, I have to employ a Pramāṇa, basically. So there are four factors that have to come together for any cognition to take place. One is the Pramāta, the knower. Then there is the Prameya, the object to be known. These are poles apart, the Pramāta and the object to be known, the Prameya. Now what connects the two? It is the Pramāṇam, the instrument, the unique cause for the rise of Pramā that bridges the gap between the Pramāta and the Prameya. Then what is the result? The result is Pramā or valid knowledge. So given this, there are three principles governing knowledge. Now these three principles don't appear in the exact same form in any of the texts, but all the ingredients are there, which have been taken together and formulated in the form of these three principles governing knowledge. So let's look at the first knowledge principle. The first knowledge principle states that when an appropriate and adequately operating Pramāṇa is aligned with the Prameya, the object of knowledge, then the Pramā, the valid knowledge, takes place in the Pramāta, the knower. When an appropriate and adequate Pramāṇa is aligned with the Prameya, the object of knowledge, then the Pramā takes place in the knower, the Pramāta. So there are a few interesting adjectives here. The first is appropriate, the second is adequate. What does this mean? So the Pramāṇa that is chosen has to be appropriate. For example, if I have to gain the knowledge of colors, then if I insist that I will use my organ of hearing, then no color knowledge can take place. Therefore, the Pramāṇa that is chosen must be appropriate. For color knowledge to take place, I have to choose my organ of visual perception. For sound knowledge to take place, I have to use my organ of hearing. So now the Pramāṇa has to be appropriate. And second is the Pramāṇa must operate adequately. If I have to gain the knowledge of colors, and if the light is insufficient, the Pramāṇa cannot operate adequately. Similarly, if my eyes have a cataract, again there's an obstruction, the Pramāṇa cannot operate adequately. That's why we have the adjectives appropriate and adequate. So, if the appropriate and adequately operating Pramāṇa is aligned with the Prameya, then the knowledge Pramā takes place. This takes place is also an important phrase here. There is no role for the will, an extremely important point. The knowledge takes place. Why? Because did it take place because I willed it? No. It took place because the conditions for it to take place were met. So my will has no role to play. We will look upon this point. We'll get into this point in a few moments. But before that, there are two corollaries for this first principle, first knowledge principle. The first corollary is that valid knowledge cannot take place without employing an appropriate and adequately operating Pramāṇa. The first point. So, Jnanam, we say, Jnanam is eka sadhana sadhyam, meaning Jnanam, this valid knowledge, Pramā, is accomplished only through one means, which is the employment of the appropriate and adequately operating Pramāṇa. And the second corollary is that if an inappropriate or an inadequately operating Pramāṇa is employed, then the result is either no knowledge or doubt or invalid knowledge. This is again very clear that if I use an inappropriate Pramāṇa, like my ears for knowing colors, then no knowledge takes place. Or if I use an inadequately operating Pramāṇa, like a cataracted eye or insufficient light, or eyes operating in insufficient light, then wrong knowledge takes place. I think something is yellow when it's actually white. Again, a very important corollary, and the application of this to self-knowledge is that the reason for the entire samsara is because I have used an inappropriate Pramāṇas to know myself. Inappropriate Pramāṇas to know myself. Because I have used inappropriate Pramāṇas to know myself, I have concluded that I am deficient, wanting, inadequate, apūrṇaḥ, and this is apramā, brahmaḥ, ayathartha jnanam. I have come to wrong knowledge. And because of this, I'm struggling in this world. The moral of the story is I have to use the appropriate Pramāṇa to know myself. We will come to that. Then we come to the second knowledge principle. The second knowledge principle says that when an appropriate and adequately operating Pramāṇa is aligned with the Prameya, then the knowledge that takes place cannot be willed to be any different. Cannot be willed to be different. Again, the will has no role to play here. We give the example of this person who goes on an evening walk. And that's a Chaturthi evening. So he has willed that I will not see the moon today. Because Chaturthyam Chandro na drashtavyaha. There is a niyamaha that the moon, it is inauspicious to see the moon on a Chaturthi. But he has gone out on his walk. And as he is walking, he is making sure he looks down. But then somebody calls him from the flat above and he looks up and suddenly the eyes contact the sky and there is the moon. So even though he had willed to not see the moon, he has seen the moon. So the conditions for the Pramā to take place were met. The Pramāṇa is there, the Pramēya is there, no obstruction, Pramā takes place. So now he cannot unsee what he has seen, nor can he will it to be any different. He cannot say, I should not be seeing the moon, let it become an apple. Again, the will has no role to play. This is why we say that Jnanam is Purusha Tantram, Jnanam is Vastu Tantram, Natu Purusha Tantram. It is not Purusha Tantram, meaning it is not dependent upon the will of the person. Action, on the other hand, karma is Purusha Tantram. If I have to go to the Kumbh Mela, for example, I can go to Varanasi and drive. I can go to Prayagraj and drive from there. I can go to Lucknow and fly from there. Multiple ways of getting there. That depends on me. Kartum shakyate, akartum shakyate, anyatha kartum shakyate. I may go, I may not go, or I may go in any number of different ways. But Jnanam is not Purusha Tantram, it is Vastu Tantram. With knowledge, there is only one way to know something as valid. There are not multiple ways. They are saying that I don't want to see the moon today, let it become an apple. Doesn't work. That's not valid knowledge. So knowledge, we say, is revelatory, meaning it just reveals what is. By removing the veil of Ajnanam, it just illuminates what is. It brings about no change to the object at all. That's why it's called discovery. Discover, you remove the cover of Ajnanam, that's all. Your will has no role to play. So as a result of these first two knowledge principles, there is a twofold denial of choice. Firstly, there is no choice whether the knowledge takes place or not. Even if I will the knowledge to take place, if the conditions are not met, the knowledge will not take place. And even if I will the knowledge to not take place, the conditions are met, the knowledge will helplessly take place. This is why if I am behind a garbage truck, for example, the Pramāṇa is there, my nostrils are open, the Pramēya is there, the garbage truck is there. No obstructions. The knowledge of the stinky smell takes place. Even if I will it to not take place, it has taken place. And even if I will that let it become fragrant, it doesn't work. Your will is absolutely immaterial in this. The only choice I have is to create an obstruction. When I create an obstruction, the Pramāṇa is no longer operating adequately, the knowledge doesn't take place. These are the first two knowledge principles. Then we come to the third knowledge principle, which is that every Pramāṇa has got inherent self-validity, reliability, or trustworthiness in its sphere of operation. So every Pramāṇa has got its sphere of operation. Like the eyes operate in the sphere of color knowledge, ears operate in the sphere of sound knowledge. So there are spheres of operation that are not overlapping. So what this means is that what one Pramāṇa reveals, another Pramāṇa cannot confirm or contradict it. So if I look for confirmation from another Pramāṇa, I am not going to get it. This is why we take what our eyes reveal to be a fact. Because the eyes being the primary means of knowledge of colors, they have self-validity in their sphere of operation. Nothing else can prove what the eyes are seeing. The eyes have to prove themselves. Another critical insight into how Pramāṇas operate. The Pramāṇa has to prove itself. If we try to seek a confirmation for one Pramāṇa from another Pramāṇa, we will never get it. So this property of inherent self-validity of Pramāṇas is called Swatah Pramāṇyam, the self-validity of Pramāṇas. And the understanding that Pramāṇas have got inherent self-validity, this understanding is called Shraddha. So now, the Shraddha is extremely important because without Shraddha, no knowledge can take place. The self-validity of Pramāṇas, if the Pramāṇas are not self-valid, then I will constantly look for confirmation for what one Pramāṇa reveals from another Pramāṇa, never get that confirmation. Therefore, the only way to gain knowledge of colors is to use my eyes, ensure that there are no obstructions, the conditions are met, and take what my eyes reveal to be a fact. No other Pramāṇa can confirm what the eyes are revealing. The Shraddha is in fact a philosophical and practical necessity for any knowledge. Even a scientist who says, I question everything, when the scientist does an experiment, then he records his observations. What were the observations obtained by? By the eyes. So he says that this star was at this position, he records it because he has Shraddha in his eyes. Without Shraddha, he would end up questioning what his eyes are revealing. He'll go nowhere with it. Without Shraddha, I cannot put even one step forward because I don't know whether if I am doubting whether the floor that my eye reveals is there or not, I cannot even place one foot forward. So Shraddha is an essential ingredient for any knowledge. So then Vedanta identifies 6 Pramāṇas, 6 means of knowledge. What are they? The first is Pratyaksha. So through Pratyaksha Pramāṇa, I come to know the knowledge of the world around me. Seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, and touching. So through this, I gain direct knowledge of the world around me. This is called Aparokṣa Jñānam. Direct knowledge is called Aparokṣa Jñānam because I directly see the pot. So Pratyaksha leads to Aparokṣa Jñānam, or direct knowledge of the surrounding world which my senses can contact. But then there are many kinds of knowledge that I can gain without directly contacting the object. For example, I see a mountain and I see smoke on the mountain. And seeing the smoke, I infer the presence of fire. Parvataha Vanniman Dhumavatvat. Because there is smoke, there must be fire. Because wherever there is smoke, there is fire, like my kitchen. Parvataha Vanniman Dhumavatvat Mahanasavat. This is inference. My eyes have not directly contacted the fire. They have only contacted the smoke, but I know the presence of fire. So this kind of knowledge is called Parokṣa Jñānam, or indirect knowledge. Inference or Anumana produces indirect knowledge. And then there are a few other means that Vedanta identifies. Arthapattihi. Devadatta is a wrestler. He doesn't eat during the day. But Devadatta is gaining weight. So I have 2 contradictory observations. Devadatta doesn't eat during the day. Devadatta is gaining weight. So these 2 observations can only be explained if I postulate a third fact, that Devadatta must be eating during the night. There is no other choice. So I'm not seeing Devadatta eat during the night, but he must be eating during the night. This is called Arthapattihi. And then there is Upamana, or knowledge by similarity. I go to a forest, and in that forest, the forest dweller tells me, Gavayaha Gosadrishaha. So there is a creature called Gavayaha that is similar to a cow. So then I'm curious, I go to the forest, and then I see the creature that looks a lot like the cow, but not exactly like the cow. Then I remember the words of this forest dweller, and I say, this must be the Gavaya. This is called Upamana Pramanam. And then there is Anupalabdhihi. knowledge of how I know no absence. Like I look at my desk, I say there is no pen on this desk. So this is not pratyaksha, because in pratyaksha, the thought follows the object. The thought takes the form of the object. But here I have the thought of the pen, but there is no pen there. And therefore, this is called knowledge of absence of the pen, and the means of knowledge is called anupalabdhi. And finally, there is shabdaha, or words. So there is a person who is abroad, and he gets a phone call saying your father is not well. So he gains the knowledge of the sickness of his father. But this is not pratyaksha. His sense organs have not contacted his father. His father is somewhere remote. Not anumana either. Purely through shabda, he has gained the knowledge of the sickness of his father. And he immediately makes plans what to do next. So shabdaha is also a means of knowledge. In fact, that is the primary means of knowledge we will come to. So these are called laukika shabdas, where these are called laukika pramāṇas, pratyaksha, anumana, etc. Because using these pramāṇas, I gain knowledge about the world, about various things in the world. And shabdas can also carry the knowledge gained by pratyaksha, anumana, arthapatti, upamana, anupalabdhi, etc. The knowledge gained can be put in the form of words. Then it becomes laukika shabdas. So we have these laukika pramāṇas and laukika shabdas that are carriers of knowledge obtained through laukika pramāṇas. So now we come to the question of there are all these 6 means of knowledge. Now, which of these means of knowledge are applicable for Atma Jnānam? How do I know the Atma? Which of these 6 means of knowledge do I use? So here we say that what I'm interested in the knowledge is in the knowledge, who am I? Who am I? And I is the observer. The observer is never the observed. So since the observer is never the observed, which of these means of knowledge are applicable? We say we have to rule out pratyaksha. Because pratyaksha is senses contacting the world. I can gain knowledge of the world through pratyaksha. Pratyaksha is not applicable for Atma Jnānam. And then I have to rule out all the others also. Anumana, Arthapatti, Upamana, Anupalabdhi. Because all of them are based on my sensory inputs. I need sensory inputs in order to use those means of knowledge. So all the laukika pramāṇas are ruled out in terms of Atma Jnānam. So then can laukika shabdas help me understand who I am? We say no. The laukika shabdas are simply carriers of knowledge gained through laukika pramāṇas. Even the laukika shabdas cannot reveal the nature of who I am. Now, there's a dilemma. That we have said moksha is ekasadhana sadhyam. Moksha can be accomplished only through one means, which is jnanam. And jnanam is also ekasadhana sadhyam. The jnanam can be accomplished only through one means, which is the Pramāṇa. Now what? You have dismissed all of these Pramāṇas. So which Pramāṇa is then applicable for Atma Jnānam? So if Atma Jnānam becomes impossible, then moksha also becomes impossible. We say moksha is possible. Why? Atma Jnānam is possible. How? We say there is a Pramāṇa for Atma Jnānam. Which is none of the laukika pramāṇas, nor the laukika shabdas that are carriers of knowledge gained through laukika pramāṇas. But we say we have to come to the Vaidika Shabda Pramāṇa. The Vaidika Shabda Pramāṇa are the words that are not carriers of knowledge that are gained through these other Pramāṇas, but the words themselves are the revealers of knowledge that I cannot gain through any of the other Pramāṇas. Words themselves are the revealers of unique knowledge that I cannot gain through any of the other Pramāṇas. And in the Vaidika Shabda, we have to come to the Vedanta Shabdas. This is why Vedanta Sara starts off saying, Vedanto Nama Upanishad Pramāṇam. And Vedanta is defined as the Upanishads that are the Pramāṇa, the means of knowledge for knowing the Atma. Oh, so then, do I do self-study? Do I take the Vedanta and start self-study? We say no. We say we have to do Shravanam. Shravanam means consistent and systematic study of Vedanta for a length of time under a qualified Acharya, a Guru. So during Shravanam, the Vedanta Pramāṇa is employed. The Shabdas of Vedanta are employed. And the Guru is one who knows how to handle the words of Vedanta as a Pramāṇa. It's very important. So then the next question is, does this Vedanta, the Shravanam, produce Parokṣa Jñānam or Aparokṣa Jñānam? Does it produce indirect knowledge or direct knowledge? As we have seen, Pratyaksha produces direct knowledge, Anumana produces indirect knowledge. And for moksha, direct knowledge of Atma is required. Direct knowledge, not indirect knowledge. Brahman is there. Brahman is, Brahma Asti, that is indirect knowledge. Parokṣa Jñānam, that doesn't liberate anyone. I have to come to the Jnanam that I am Brahman. I am the absolute reality, the non-dual reality. Such knowledge alone liberates. This is Aparokṣa Jñānam. So do the Shabdas of Vedanta produce Parokṣa Jñānam or Aparokṣa Jñānam? So first we talk about Shabdas in general. Do Shabdas in general produce Aparokṣa Jñānam or Parokṣa Jñānam? So we say that when the object is remote, the object is somewhere remote, then the Shabdas become descriptive words. So descriptive words of a remote object only produce Parokṣa Jñānam or indirect knowledge of that object. And subsequently, I have to visit that object and experience that object. And then only it gets converted into Aparokṣa Jñānam or direct knowledge experience. So if Shabdas produce Parokṣa Jñānam, what do they use? We say, but there are special cases in which Shabdas can produce Aparokṣa Jñānam or direct knowledge. So when is that? We say, when the object is here and now, the object is being experienced already, but I am lacking some special Jnanam about that object. The Samanya Jnanam is there, some Vishesha Jnanam is not there. The object is already being experienced, and the words give me the knowledge of what this, the missing knowledge of what this object is. Then we say that the Shabdas produce Aparokṣa Jñānam or direct knowledge, because the object is already being experienced. After gaining this knowledge, there is no need to further experience the object. Okay? So like I go to my high school reunion, and in the reunion, I'm talking to my friends, a few friends, and this person I've been talking to for a while. So I'm already seeing this person, I'm already talking to this person. And then my other friend comes and says, Soyam Devadattaha, this Devadattaha is that Devadattaha, this person you're talking to, this Devadattaha is that Devadattaha you were playing with when you were a child, do you remember? And immediately my eyes light up. Oh, this Devadatta is that Devadatta. I didn't know this. Now do I have to go and separately experience Devadatta? No. The Devadatta that I am already experiencing is that Devadatta. This is Aparokṣa Jñānam, or direct knowledge. Then what about Vedanta Śravanam? We say that Vedanta Śravanam, does it produce indirect or direct knowledge? No, that's the question. We talked about Shabdas in general. Here we say that the Atma is self-evident. I have absolutely no doubt that I am. You ask anybody, you don't need Vedanta for this. Are you there or not? People have no doubt that I am. Everybody will forcefully say, yes, I'm very much there. Absolutely no doubt about it. This is what we call the self-evidence of Atma. Atma is self-evident. It is present in every experience. If this I is not there, there cannot be any experience. In every experience, the self-evident I is very much there. So the Samanya Jnanam is there. In every experience, this I is there. So then, what happens? The words of Vedanta come in. The words of Vedanta, are they descriptive words? You say no. The words of Vedanta become introductory words because they introduce me to who I am. The already experienced Atma, the Atma that is present in every experience, is introduced to me by the Mahavakya. So we say that the Mahavakyas produce Aparokṣa Jñānam, or direct knowledge. So the words of Vedanta, the Shravanam that employ the words of Vedanta, it culminates in the understanding that I, this already self-evident Atma, that is nothing but Brahman, the support of the entire world, the existence behind this entire world. So I'm not a puny creature in this world, but I am the support of this world. Before this world came into being, I, Brahman, was very much there. And in me, Brahman, this entire world has arisen. By me, this entire world is supported. And in me, this entire world will resolve. Mayyeva sakalam jatam, mayi sarvam pratishtitam, mayi sarvam layang yati, tad brahma advayam asmi aham. This is the Aparokṣa Jñānam that one comes to through Shravanam. So to conclude, we talked about the two knowledge principles. That if the Pramāṇa is there, the Pramāya is there, and there are no obstructions, then the Pramā has to take place. So the Pramāta, the student, is there. And the self-evident Atma is here and now. The Atma is not a remote object, it is here and now. Now in Vedanta Śravanam, the Pramāṇa is also there. Vedanta, the words of Vedanta is there. So the Pramāta is there, Pramāya is there, the Pramāṇa is there. And if there are no obstructions, then the Aham Brahmasmi, Pramā, must take place. So if Śravanam doesn't result in this Aparokṣa Jñānam, that only means that there are certain obstructions. So if I ask that I have been doing Śravanam, but the Aparokṣa Jñānam hasn't happened, can I do something else to gain this Jnanam? We say that's like asking that I have been looking at the object using my eyes, but I'm not gaining the color knowledge. Can I gain this color knowledge through some other means? We say no. Gain color knowledge, you have to use the eyes. The only thing you can do is remove any obstacles that are there, remove the defects or obstructions. So similarly, in Śravanam, the lack of qualifications can be an obstruction. Doubts can be an obstruction. So we say that one needs to get qualified, acquire the appropriate qualifications, remove the doubts, and repeat the Śravanam. How long do I repeat the Śravanam? Until knowledge takes place. Until knowledge takes place. So just like the eyes prove themselves as valid means of knowledge, valid and fruitful means of knowledge that reveal things that no other means of knowledge can reveal. Similarly, the words of Vedanta will prove themselves as valid and fruitful means of knowledge that no other Pramāṇa can reveal. And once this knowledge has been gained through Shravanam and Mananam, then I come to Nididhyasanam. Nididhyasanam is not meant for gaining this knowledge. Nididhyasanam is meant to erode the habitual thinking patterns that habitually make me think that I am a Pūrṇaḥ. Once I have gained the knowledge that I am Pūrṇaḥ, Atma Pūrṇam Brahma. The knowledge is there, but then I have to learn to abide in this knowledge, and that is what Nididhyasanam is for. So moksha is eka sadhana sadhyam. The sadhanam is jnanam and jnanam only. Jnanam is also eka sadhana sadhyam, and jnanam can be arrived at only through the appropriate and adequately operating pramāṇa. And the pramāṇa are the words of Vedanta employed during Shravana. And therefore, the mumukshuhu must become a jigyasu, seeker of moksha must become a seeker of knowledge. And a seeker of knowledge must become a seeker of shravanam, a sushrushuhu. And therefore, one has to commit to doing shravanam where the words of Vedanta are employed as a pramāṇa. And that should lead to the rise of Atma Jnanam, that moksha is my very nature. Om Pūrṇamadah Pūrṇamidam Pūrṇāt Pūrṇamudachyate Pūrṇasya Pūrṇamadāya Pūrṇamevāvashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
Thank you. Thank you, Sunil. It was very nice exposition of Pramata, Pramāṇa, Pramāṇa, Pramāya, and Pramā. Very nice. Very nice to have you spared some time for us. Thank you very much. Om Sahana Vatu, Sahano Bhunaktum, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvina Vadhitamaskama Vitmikavahai, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti, Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Hari Om Tat Sat. Viewers, join us again for the evening session, Vedanta Consciousness in Daily Life by Swami Aparokṣa Jñānam.